Hi sheep, Explode here, and welcome back to finally another video. Yeah, my last video was my 2014-15 predictions, and now I'm doing my 2015-16. Oh, wait. No, last video was my 2015-16 predictions, now I'm doing my 2016-17 predictions. It's got to get the year right. Anyway, on the left my predictions, and on the right is what actually happened before we actually get into my predictions for this season. I did pretty badly. I mean, it was pretty unpredictable last season, but even looking at it, what was I thinking putting Swansea in 7th? Honestly. Like, the Chelsea 3rd and Leicester 13th makes sense, but Swansea 7th. Yeah, let's just move on. So, that does give me a score of 3.8. So that's the average difference. Sorry, that's the average difference between what the teams actually finished and what I predicted. So obviously 0 would be perfect, and I believe the worst you can do is 10 if you get the table backwards. But 3.8 is still pretty bad. Anyway, moving on to my predictions for this year. Now that we've reacted, I don't even really want to react. Just move on from the crap that was last year's predictions. So on the left here we have what happened last year, so we can compare it to my predictions this year. Starting off with Hull in 20th. Now they did start well, but there's just no way. Like, half their team's injured until like halfway through the season. They've got no manager. I mean, it's just there's just no way they can be better than last, or maybe second. They're in my I'm pretty much splitting the table into 6 different groups of teams, which I'll be surprised if any teams finished outside of. So the bottom 2 in the bottom group, and the other one in that group is Burnley. This is the group that's just got barely any chance of staying up, in my opinion. They just might as well not try. The next 3 teams I would put in a safety scrap. So 2 of them will obviously survive. The first one, who I think will go down, is Sunderland. They'll move down 1 place from last year. They haven't really changed a lot, to be honest. They've just bought Man United rejects and got rid of Sam Allardyce, who's a master of keeping teams up, to replace him with David Moyes, who, well, we know how he went at United. He did it well at Everton, but that was ages ago. So I think they will go down. Really, it's just a matter of 3 relegation teams went down, 2 relegation teams and a mid-table team came up, and so they go down 1 spot because of that. Along with them, Bournemouth, similar thing. They're part of the safety scrap, in my opinion. It's just, again, the 3 relegation teams going down, 2 relegation teams and a mid-table team coming up. The final team in the safety scrap is, I think, Swansea. It's because they, in my opinion, they had the worst transfer window out of any Premier League club. They lost Williams, they lost AU, two of their best players, They got rid of like all their strikers. They're gonna struggle. So that's why I've got them in a safety scrap. The next three, I think, are in no real danger, but they're not really going to go very far anyway. The lowest of them is Watford. They had a very good season last year. I stand by my prediction of them getting relegated then. I think at the time it was a fair assessment. But they did really well. They got a solid mid-table finish. But then they got rid of their manager and they brought in a whole lot of people who... I mean, it could work out for them, but it's going to take time for them all to gel as a squad. So I think they'll struggle early on, be near relegation, and then pull through near the end to get 15th. Next to no real danger, Crystal Palace. They made some good transfers. They got Mandanda. So I'm just trying to think. Who's a quality goalkeeper. They did sell Balassi, which will cost them. So Townsend isn't really an improvement. Then he's just replacing Balassi. If they still had Balassi, I'd put them higher. Really, I mean, as True Geordie always says, Alan Pardew isn't really a long-term manager, so they're not really going to kick on with him in charge. The final no real danger but not going to do much team is West Brom. They haven't really done a whole lot. They've kept their squad together. They've got Chadley, who's a good addition. Yeah, that's about it. It's just Watford and Swansea crumbling that really gives them their +1 over last year. Next, we've got the 4 teams in a mid-table battle. Bottom of that, I think, will be Middlesbrough. I would say they had one of the best transfer windows, getting players like Valdez and Negredo. They've got definitely a good enough team to survive. Is 12th a bit generous? Maybe, but I think they can do it. Moving on to 11th, the hardest team to predict. Leicester. They lost Kante, which is huge, but they did keep most of their team together. I think they'll finish 11th. There's no way they can win it again. But imagine if they did, winning back-to-back titles before Man City. That'd be great. But yeah, I think 11th is fair. Maybe a bit higher, but unlikely. They haven't exactly had the best of starts, losing to Hull. In 10th, I think Southampton. They lost Koeman, who I think is one of the best managers in the Prem, and that says a lot with the amount of quality managers that came in. And I would have rather had him at United than Mourinho. They also lost Mane. They don't really have any good goal scorers. Like they've got Shane Long and Charlie Austin, but they've started badly. They're probably going to climb up to 10th, but nothing really better than that. Next we have Stoke City. I think another solid season, but there's not really anything to shout about. Same 9th. Only team that I don't think will be changing their position. So that's the mid-table battle finished. Moving on to the 6 teams that could be challenging for top 4, which is ridiculous. Because starting off with West Ham, they haven't really done anything. They haven't weakened their squad or anything to get that -1. It's just that all the quality managers and quality players coming into the teams above It's just ridiculous how many teams are challenging for the top 4. So I'm going to give them an 8th. I think they needed a good striker to actually get into top 6 or top 4 really. They seem to be using AU as their striker. I don't even know. They've just got so many wide midfielders and no good strikers. Moving on, I think Koeman's revolution will begin. As I said, with Southampton, he is a top quality manager and he will do well with Everton. They've had a decent transfer window. They lost John Stones, but they definitely got a lot of money for him. And they replaced him with Williams, who currently, I would say, is better. Obviously, in the future, John Stones will be far superior. But currently, they haven't really lost much there. In fact, they've probably gained. 6th, Liverpool. As much as I hate to see them do well, I think it'll be they're starting to get into Klopp's team. They got Mane, who's a good signing. They'll do all right. They'll get 6th. In 5th, I'm going for Spurs. Going down to simply because they haven't really strengthened that much, and the teams above them have. And in 4th will be Arsenal with pretty much the same problem as Spurs. I would have probably had them miss out on top 4, but they did get Mustafi on deadline day, which is huge. So I think he'll be enough to get them into that 4th spot. Next up, the biggest improvement, Chelsea, and the last team that will be challenging for top 4 but doesn't really have it guaranteed. Obviously they've started well. They've got a 100% record. The Hazard seems to be doing well again. They've got Kante. They're actually becoming Chelsea again instead of a mid-table team. So next, the 2 teams who I think will be battling out for the title. Pretty much everyone thinks we're battling out for the title. It's just like, who will win? And I'm gonna say City 2nd, United 1st. Am I a little bit biased? Probably, but to be fair, I did say City would win the league last season. But if you look at them, United, look at the signings they made. United are in 5th. They signed Jose. That should be enough of an improvement to get to 4th. Signing Ibra, that should be enough to get to 3rd. Signing Pogba should be enough to get to 2nd. And signing Mkhitaryan should be enough to get to 1st. Man City, on the other hand, finished 4th. Pep would get them up to 3rd. But then, looking at the players they've signed, they haven't really signed any first team players. They got Nolito, who will be, and Bravo, but they're not huge improvements compared to what United did. So they're probably like half a position each. So that gets them up to 2nd. Other players they signed are players like Sane and Gabriel Jesus and John Stones, who are good players for the future, but they're not really gonna get first team. So I'm saying Man City 2nd, United 1st. My goal is to get a score of 2 this time, which if all the teams, if I got my groups correct, everyone finishes from the group that I gave them, the worst I could get would be 1.9. So if I get 2, it'll mean that someone finished outside of the group I set. Besides that, that's about it. See you soon.